Welcome to The Explainer. Let's dive right into something that literally changes the game in business analysis, moving from just cranking out outputs to driving actual outcomes. We're going to walk through a personal career journey drawn directly from our source material today. It's a fantastic story about moving away from just checking boxes and adopting a mindset that completely changes your trajectory in the field. What's really fascinating about this journey is that it didn't even begin with formal business analyst training. It started deep in the technical weeds as a technical consultant. We're talking elbows deep in systems, completely focused on execution, and making the technology function exactly as requested. There were no structured BA frameworks to lean on, just pure, raw implementation.
So looking at the progression, moving from technical consultant into pre-sales, then solution architecture, and finally landing in business analysis, on paper, it looks like a perfectly logical, steady career climb, doesn't it? But moving through all those highly technical roles hardwired a very specific, systems-focused mindset. The whole goal was just take the scope, build the exact thing they asked for, and move on. And man, that set the stage for some incredibly tough lessons down the road.
Back then, the guiding philosophy was super simple, almost dangerously simple. The assumption was, if I deliver exactly what is asked of me, I succeed, right? I totally bought into this false belief that checking off tasks, updating docs, and writing flawlessly detailed requirements was the ultimate goal. It felt incredibly productive because, well, everything looked correct.
Early on in this BA role, there was a customer-facing digital project that we played entirely by the book. Requirements, clearly documented. Stakeholders, fully signed off. Delivery, right on track and perfectly on budget. On paper, it was a massive textbook success story. It was the perfect project.
But then, the solution actually went live. And it just completely flatlined. Nobody used it. It was an absolute gut punch to realize that, sure, the team had perfectly solved the exact thing the business asked for, but we had completely missed what the end users actually needed. We delivered 100% of the scope, and yet it was still a total failure. That specific failure was a massive wake-up call. The source material highlights this epiphany perfectly. I wasn't failing at documentation, I was missing the bigger picture. The uncomfortable truth surfaced pretty quickly. Having beautifully written requirements does absolutely zero to guarantee a successful solution if you don't actually understand the underlying problem. Being super busy capturing every detail is definitely not the same as being effective.
So a fundamental mindset shift has to happen. You have to transition away from being an output-focused analyst. Someone who just stays busy completing tasks and writing up requirements that nobody actually needs. Instead, you have to transition into being an outcome-focused professional. Someone who is effective at solving real problems and creating actual, tangible impact. And this brings us to one of the most crucial principles you can ever learn in this field. Delivering features does not equal delivering value. Let me say that again. Value is not what you build. Value is the measurable outcome that building it actually creates. It's about how user behavior improves or how a business goal is achieved. It is absolutely not just taking a feature off a checklist. So why do we miss this value so often? Well, because of a trap we all fall into, jumping straight to solutions. Honestly, it's the biggest mistake a business analyst can make. A stakeholder comes in, explains a problem, and literally 2 minutes later, everyone in the room says, "Awesome, let's build this." It feels incredibly fast, it feels highly productive, but it points us entirely in the wrong direction because we start solving before we truly understand the problem. Here is a perfect example from the source material of how this plays out in real life. The ask from the business was super straightforward. We need a new feature. But when the team actually dug into the reality, they discovered customers were dropping off because the existing user journey was just too confusing. If they had just jumped to the solution and added that requested feature, it would have added more clutter and made the experience even worse. The root cause was completely different from the proposed solution. Which brings us to a crucial realization, the real role of a BA, slowing down to ask, why? Your job is not just to accept the first solution handed to you across the desk. It's to pump the brakes just enough to figure out if we're even fixing the right thing. This challenges a mindset trap we all fall into. When expectations shift, requirements change, and discussions just keep going in circles, it's so incredibly easy to point across the table and ask, are stakeholders just difficult? It's the oldest complaint in the book. But over time, you realize something huge. Stakeholders aren't the enemy. They aren't the actual problem. The true root cause of all that project friction, it's simply a lack of clarity. Stakeholders keep changing direction because the actual problem and what success even looks like were never formally agreed upon in the first place. When clarity is weak, literally everything feels like a stakeholder problem. This means you have to completely flip your approach. If you are early in your career, please do not sit around waiting for perfect inputs or flawlessly clear requirements to just be handed to you. Clarity is not given. Clarity is created. You have to actively go in there and build it by asking direct questions, dragging hidden assumptions out into the light, and explicitly confirming exactly what success looks like. And the best way to create that clarity isn't by staying rigidly in your designated lane. It's about valuing mindsets over job titles. Forget about who does what for a second and look at the responsibilities. The BA mindset brings problem clarity. The product owner mindset ensures value ownership. The Scrum Master mindset focuses on delivery flow. The greatest impact happens when you step back, expand your focus, and understand the responsibilities behind these roles rather than just defending your specific title. So, how do we put this into practice? To stop jumping to solutions and actually guarantee real value, there is a brilliantly simple framework you should use before locking in any requirement, and definitely before any delivery begins. Let's break it down. It comes down to 3 actionable steps. Step 1, what exact problem are we solving? Step 2, who benefits the most from solving it? And step 3, what does success look like and how are we going to measure it? Honestly, if the answers to these 3 questions aren't crystal clear to every single person in the room, then the requirement just isn't ready, period. You have to hit pause and define these things first. When you apply this framework, it forces you to explicitly define measurable business outcomes. So instead of a vague, output-driven goal like add a new feature, you define success as a tangible outcome, like reduce customer effort or decrease support queries. Doing this dramatically improves alignment with your stakeholders. It makes prioritization a breeze because suddenly everyone is focused on actual real-world impact. Operating with this kind of real impact from day one really boils down to one fundamental shift in thinking. Experience doesn't make you senior. Thinking does. It's about looking past the immediate tasks on your desk and constantly anticipating what will go wrong if you misunderstand the core business need. Because at the end of the day, you aren't valued for the documents you write. You're valued for how you think. Ultimately, nobody remembers the features you delivered. They really don't. They remember the outcomes you created. Your legacy in this field is built entirely on the real-world value you bring to the table. So I want to leave you with a challenge for your very next meeting. Ask for just one measurable outcome. Push past the output. Ask yourself right now, is the value you are delivering clearly defined, or are you just assuming it's there?